Now we would like to invite our opening. Oh wait, oh yeah, I forget. We have info slide, which is basically an info about our motion, about what we are going to debate tonight. Please. Alright, so the theme for tonight will be about politics or education. One disclaimer that I want to put here is that we don't want to offend anyone, and everything here that is said by the debaters are all their own opinion. It doesn't represent UiTM, it doesn't represent anyone in this world, and it's on their own. So if you feel offended, you can punch them in their face and not sue anyone. Cool? Alright. So, and you? So, we are going to talk about this guy tonight. Kau ingat senang ke lahanan nak jadi menteri? What do you think about this? Interesting? Alright, can we move on? So, this is a bit of his background, Dr. Maszlee Malik, our former education minister. So, the motion of tonight will be... That's a video. Click.
Education Minister Maszlee Malik has announced his resignation effective tomorrow. Maszlee made the announcement in a special press conference in Putrajaya this evening. He said the decision was made after meeting Prime Minister Dr. Mahathir Mohamad.
Selepas pertemuan dengan Yang Amat Berhormat Perdana Menteri sebentar tadi, di atas nasihat beliau yang merupakan bagi saya seorang ayahanda dan seorang pemimpin dan seorang negarawan yang ulung, dan di atas dasar ketaatan dan disiplin kepada kepimpinan parti dan kerajaan, maka saya dengan hati yang reda walaupun berat, dengan nasihat daripada Yang Amat Berhormat Ayahanda Perdana Menteri, saya Maszlee Malik dengan ini memulangkan semula jawatan saya sebagai Menteri Pendidikan Malaysia kepada Yang Amat Berhormat Perdana Menteri berkuat kuasa 3 Januari 2020. Sekian, terima kasih.
Maszlee had received intense criticism against him in helming the education portfolio. He came under fire over several policies, such as the plan to make school shoes black by 2021 and over the introduction of Jawi in the Year 4 Bahasa Malaysia syllabus.
Hello. Alright. We've done with everything. We're done with the video. We're done with the info slide. And now the debate. The motion of the debate will be this House regrets the resignation of Maszlee Malik. Without further ado, I'm going to invite the first speaker from the opening government to deliver his speech. Don't tell me yet, Still nervous. For those of you who want to know my Instagram, please mention me after I finish editing because I like to time myself and I don't want to be disturbed. Okay. Test. Ladies and gentlemen, when Julius Caesar was about to conquer the whole of Rome, his own nephew/son actually stabbed him with his back for 37 times with his friends. He was betrayed. Julius Caesar was betrayed by the person he loved the most, the person he trusted the most.
Now we see a repeat of that incident, only that Maszlee is not there. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, honorable people could disagree or agree on a minimal issue such as this one, on how a minister who is doing a good job is actually being resignated. However, I would like to have this honest debate between all the members of this parliamentary debate. Good evening and welcome to this debate. Before I begin with my definition and case setup, right? Let me tell you a few issues and a few burdens that we, side opening government, would like to bring up today. Two things that we're going to do today is that firstly, we are going to show you how his ability to do a good job is enough for him, enough of a reason to keep him in the first place. And secondly, how not only does his resignation is a bad choice in and of itself, right? And that the speculation around it and the reasons behind it is not adequate enough for him to actually resign in the first place. And instead of us just bringing up what our burden of proof today, we're going to want side opposition to bring up this one issue and prove to us that they need to show us how Maszlee, being in the ministry in the cabinet itself, is going to do a bad job. It's going to make things worse instead of like progressing. And we don't want them to show that, oh, because Maszlee is doing a bad job, that does mean, oh, just because of that, he's going to be resigned anyways. If that's the case, then there are other people who need to resign today, right? Moving on to my definition. Firstly, what does regret mean? Is that something that I wrote out just now is that we feel that his resignation was not meant to be, and also that if possible, his resignation be reverted and he is to be Minister of Education in the first place, right? And yeah, let me tell you of status quo. What is status quo? The situation today, right? Is that on 27th December 2019, last year, a letter arrived on Maszlee's desk informing him of his encouragement for him to resign from Mahathir himself, his ayahanda, right? And then on 2nd January 2020, he announced his resignation and gave a press statement right after he met with Mahathir himself. Right. That's all for my case setup. I'll bring you to my first argument. Is that under the key phrase of his efficiency as Minister of Education, right? Is that we see that Maszlee, if I may call him OYD, he is a very good minister, right? He may do some things that were not good for cabinet or for the country, right? However, we see his contribution as a whole, his collective contribution was able to ensure that all the students and all the teachers was going to live a better life for their education, right? Granted, he initiated several issues, which I'm going to tell you about right now, and why those issues are not relevant in today's debate. Firstly, he said that Jawi should be instated into the textbooks of every Malay subject, right? First, the thing about Jawi is that he did not started with the idea. Jawi actually started in 2014 under whose management? Najib Razak. And so, like, for you to blame him on that purpose alone is relatively wrong. Why? Because he was only doing his job as minister. He got his portfolio and he was like, okay, we're gonna do this. So Jawi is not his fault entirely. Next thing, YTL. What is YTL? The 4G, the one you have in Penang for free, right? Is that the problem is that why he terminated that contract is not because of like political issues or like all those other things that he is stupid or whatnot. But it's because YTL does not provide the best internet service, right? What would you expect if you want internet Wi-Fi here to be as bad as it is when you have a choice to use like cell phone where it's much better, right? So the plan is that he makes it better for the students themselves and for the teachers to use those kind of things without data and whatnot. And lastly, the black shoe incident. Guys are wearing black shoes. It's nice and it's good. Like, it's for the betterment of everyone, right? He wants to be fashionable, let him be fashionable. Right? Moving on, let me tell you of several of his achievements in the past 2 years, right? He improved internet connectivity. He set up the ICC, Independent Integrity Committee, to investigate fraud and malpractices in the education system. He had free school breakfast programs. Free food. What do you want? Seamless school system. You don't have to be with stupid kids anymore. You can be with your friends. He brought up more universities into the QS World University Rankings for 2020. More than any other minister can combine, can do, right? He dismantled the University and University College Act of, I can't remember the year. Yeah, but like, he did all this stuff in the span of 2 years, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm just like reading off half of my page, right? Alright, yeah. And so we believe that if he was to be resigned because of just internal conflict between the political society, right? And is that, why do you resign someone who's very good and very efficient as him, just for a matter of sake that, oh, I disagree with him a lot. There are several issues I don't like with him. He's probably too short, right? He's only 5'2". I'm taller, right? And so, just because of all those things, ladies and gentlemen, is that he was encouraged to resign. He was encouraged to drop the post. He, a man who has no political agenda, who has no political background, a man who is very clean, was stripped down of his ministryship just because he caused a few problems for Wisma Putra, ladies and gentlemen. Do you believe a man with that caliber should be given that kind of excuse, should be given that kind of treatment in the first place, right? If you believe so, then by the end of this debate, you believe in cronyism, you believe in kleptocracy, and you believe in the fact of corruption being number one. Thank you.
So now we are done with our first speaker, and we would like to invite our second speaker from the opening opposition, our lecturer favorite person, Ammar Hafiz, to deliver his speech, please.
Hello. So just that you guys know, if my debating is not good, just forgive me because I've gone rusty. I haven't debated since the last decade, so. So yeah. Assalamualaikum and a very good evening and greet to all. Today we are discussing about whether we will regret the resignation of the Minister Maszlee Malik for certain reasons, of course. So let's look at the questions that will arise. Wait, before we go to that, I'll go to the POI of the first speaker from the opening government. So he started his speech smoothly with the representation of Julius being correlated with Maszlee Malik. However, even though it's kind of not that relatable, seeing that Julius brought up an empire and Maszlee Malik just created an initiative pathway which is not even guaranteed for these children, then I don't think it would be considered for you to relate him with Maszlee Malik. Moving on, they ask us the question of accepting the fact if Maszlee Malik did a bad job as a minister. No, we wouldn't, from our side, we wouldn't say that he was a bad minister. We agree that he made a lot of contributions, that he, such as what the first speaker said earlier, like he, created free breakfast and internet for schools, and, schools and stuff, and for kids, you want to go to school, right? So, no, we don't agree with the fact that he was bad, but from our side, we would say that he was quite flawed with the fact that certain addresses that he proposed in the past few months that have already grown into a big issue. If you go down Twitter, if you go down on social media today, it's a big issue, and it's a big debate that's ongoing. right now. Before I move on to my next rebuttal, yes.
Other ministers also have done big issues to make very controversial decisions. Why is Malik the only one who was being given as a scapegoat?
I think it's really smart for the government right now that we are being for the current government to, because since this is a big issue being related to the education of Malaysia, being really that considers how how the children of the future will be educated. I think that this issue is really big. So it's better for, I wouldn't say that just because of these propositions, that because of these oopsies and mistakes that Maszlee Malik made is the reason that he should step down. It would say that the people, the organizations that are going against him, that are caused by these issues, that keep holding grudges against him and will keep on going, even though that he will make better initiatives for the education of Malaysia, there will be organizations, there will be grudges against him and also the Ministry of Education later on in the future. Moving on to the next rebuttal, he also said that Jawi, that proposing that when Maszlee Malik proposed the issue of Jawi being taught at vernacular schools for the Chinese and the Tamil schools, Chinese and the Tamil schools for the year 4 pupils, and that he said that it was an idea coming from Najib. Well, from here we see that many ideas are created, such as the idea where he started to abolish the exams for year 1 to year 3. That's an idea that has been initiated by many people from a long time ago. And if you were to say that Jawi was not his idea, yes, fine then, you can say that. But the problem is, right now, he already proposed this issue, and this issue is already a big thing in the internet today, in the society today, and knowing that many grudges be against him is quite a big risk for the Ministry of Education itself. Yes, sir.
So are you saying that every minister that faces like big issues should resign immediately?
Okay, look, you see that when these issues are big, when these issues, you know that they will be held on against you, that you know that they will be stuck with you, and especially when it's related with education. It's a big thing, when we are talking about education and the people of the future and how they will learn and how they will develop and progress in our country today. And that, yes, we would take down, will consider ministers, especially in the field of education, to actually step down when certain issues that have been ongoing for a long time have already arise into certain organizations to go against them. So moving on, we look at the debate today and certain questions that arise, like why not the other ministers? Why not they arise? Why not they step down? And what will happen to the education of the minister? Was Maszlee Malik a good minister? Was he considerably the best, as we can see coming from the government side? Well, yes, we do agree with many contributions, such as making classes and abolishing exams and zero dilapidated schools for the disabled kids, and also free breakfast program. Even though we can all agree that it's not seen as progressive, but we can take the initiative as a considerable contribution. And also the mutual teacher transfer plan, and also the TVET. So looking at all these contributions, we believe that his heart was in the right place. Looking at certain Twitter comments, we see that he is a good minister, that he has the good characteristics of a good minister. But looking at his proposition, where he proposed Hut and Jawi to be taught in vernacular schools, we think that when many criticism has been brought against him because he proposed this issue in the first place, that these organizations will keep on, like I said earlier, will keep on holding grudges against him. But let's say that he keeps on going as a good minister, that he keeps the initiatives up, that he gives a good change to the education of Malaysia. Still, these organizations who hold these grudges, such as right now, people still have grudges against the PH government, such as, so we see that people will still hold these grudges against him. People will still keep hating against him, and we believe that it's not healthy for the Ministry of Education itself, and also not healthy for Maszlee Malik himself. So we believe that when he steps down, it's better for the society, so that there's not much more reasons to hate on the Ministry of Education, and that things can be resolved in a much more smooth way, so that conflict can be resolved much more easily. So, because Maszlee Malik is seen as such a pro-Malay person, when he also addressed 90% quotation for Malays to be ensured of jobs, even though they don't know how to speak Mandarin. So we believe that it's better for him to step down and actually keep and keep the Ministry of Education growing as it should be. But we do not say that he was a bad minister. We just say that he made a mistake, and that mistake would be keep held on against him because it's been brought up for a long time. Therefore, I rest my case. Thank you.
Alright, now we want to call upon another speaker from the opening government, Wan Khadijah Dina. It seems like she's so excited to deliver his speech. Now, without further ado, please.
Okay, so before I start, I have a disclaimer. Unlike Hifzhan, if you want to mention me during my speech, feel free. Okay, so before I start with my points, I'd like to first call out the leader of the opposition for forgetting that his role is not only to rebut but to also introduce a point, which is something that he did not do. So, of course, on my side, there's not much for me to rebut with apart from his own rebuttals, right? So, moving on. First of all, also he said that Jawi, yes, was an issue, and that because of the backlash that the respected Dr. Maszlee received, that he should have that is proportionate for the result to be that he has to step down. But what we think on the side of the opening government, right, is that not only is it very, very unproportionate, it's unfair. So let's make a comparison, right? So Jawi, the issue here was that it was introduced in vernacular schools, and it was only around, if I'm not mistaken, 3 pages for the kids in year 4. And we think, if that's such an issue, yeah, and it's only an issue to certain members of the country, not everyone, certain members of the country, who I would rather not state, right? It's more about racial issues more than political. What we would like to say here is that how is it proportionate for a minister who, as my PM has already stated, is efficient for just this issue and a few 2, 3 other issues for him to step down? We think that it's a very unfair and very unjust for this thing to happen in the first place. Now, moving on, something that Ammar tried to sell to the House today is that because you have people hating on you and because you have people not agreeing with your policies, that a minister such as Dr. Maszlee Malik should step down. Now, number one, first response is that what we see here today is that who is the one that's hating on Dr. Maszlee Malik? Is it everyone in the country? Because understand here, when you have a minister, right, it's not just enough for a certain, and can I say the minority of our people in the country to hate on this minister, right? It's not enough for a certain minority to disagree with his policies. You have to have a majority of people who do not believe enough in this minister for you to say that he needs to step down. We think that this never happened in the time that Dr. Maszlee Malik was in office, right? And number 3, going towards also as Ammar's statement about how Dr. Maszlee Malik, towards the end of his speech, he said that he cannot really understand the feelings of the Chinese and the Indian people because he doesn't understand what it feels like to be a minority. Let us make it clear to the House today that Dr. Maszlee Malik is in fact half Chinese. He is not only fluent in English and Malay, he's also fluent in simple Mandarin and also a number of other languages. What we say here today is just because you did not do your research on Dr. Maszlee Malik does not mean that you get to demean Dr. Maszlee Malik, right? Alright. So thank you. So moving on, right, to my to the second point coming from the opening government. So what we feel today is that there is an inadequate reason behind the resignation of Dr. Maszlee Malik. So notice that the official statement released by the government was that Dr. Maszlee Malik had caused too much friction within the parliament, that he caused too many disagreements, that the policies he put forward were unparalleled with what Dr. Mahathir wanted or what the members of the parliament wanted. So that's what the gist of the official statement was. So that what we think about this is that it's kind of rubbish in a sense, because how is it that when you have a minister who is as efficient as Dr. Maszlee Malik, as stated by my PM, with all the policies that he's already put forward, he prioritized, let's put this in past tense because this guy's gone now, sadly. He prioritized the OKU community. He prioritized those within the B40 level. He prioritized those who were not before able to attend school. For example, the stateless children. In 2018 alone, he made it possible for around 2,000 plus of these children to go to school. This has never happened within any of our previous education ministers. So let's understand that. He made sure that those who were previously marginalized were not further marginalized while he was still in office. So let's take the point that here he is extremely efficient. He's extremely considerate of the needs of the people. Whether or not Jawi, black shoes, free breakfast or YPL was an issue, right? He was considerate. You have to concede with that. So when you have a minister that is effective as this, right, how is it that just a certain amount of friction, which can I say was not fully specified, we were not given enough transparency about this issue for us to know what exactly did he do that actually caused for him to actually have to step down? When you just have disagreements, when you have arguments within parliament, he has to step down. Now let me say to you, to the House today, that within parliaments, that's where arguments are supposed to happen. You are supposed to debate about bills that you want to put forward, about motions that you want to put forward, about things that you want to change about the country. It's good to have people who agree and disagree about a certain issue. It means that you're getting both sides of the coin. Now what we think today is just with the government saying that they don't agree with certain issues, that he made it too hard. We think that that's not fair, right? Because within the 4 issues that we've centralized on today's issue about Jawi and all that, we think that these issues are, first of all, it's unjust because it's more towards racially and religiously propagated. And number 2, these issues could have easily been solved. Jawi, if you didn't want it, okay, fine. Just, maybe we could have done something else with it, right? Or about the black shoes incident. It's not that much of a big issue, but we still use it until this day to prove about how Dr. Maszlee Malik was such an inefficient minister. We think that it's not really about the fact that he was causing friction within parliament. It's more about the fact that certain members of our community of Malaysians did not like him. And we're not saying everyone didn't like him. We're saying just the ones important to the government didn't like him. Now, let's not go further into that because that would be dangerous. So let's go on, right? About why friction is not necessarily bad. Now, one, I've already told you about the fact that when you have disagreements within parliament, it's good because you're supposed to disagree in parliament. You're supposed to argue about stuff in parliament, right? If everyone was agreeing with each other, it would mean that it's only good for those in the parliament, or it just mean that we live in a utopian society, which we certainly do not. But we think that here, in today's world, change is never fully welcome. We understand that. And we think that for the upper echelons in the government to expect that agreements and like total smoothness of the runnings of the parliament should be something that happens in day-to-day parliament life, we think that it's extremely unfair, and it's very sad to see that we had such an efficient minister had to go away, right? We think that because of the policies that he already had, and because of the fact that, to be honest, disagreements and friction in parliament is not enough for you to say that a minister who was effective as this had to go down. We think that just because certain people didn't agree with him, or certain people within the parliament didn't agree with him, or certain people within the society that didn't agree with him, he should have still been able to be in there because he had so much more to give. Knowing that he prioritized those who were before marginalized and before set aside in our community, and he brought them forward. He put them in the limelight. We see that that is something that is truly, truly commendable. And we think that no other education minister, has ever done this before. And we think that just because we have certain issues, like underlying tensions about this, it's very unfair for Dr. Maszlee Malik and very unfair to the people, to the teachers, students, and parents, for them to have to do without Dr. Maszlee Malik. So thank you, and hope you agree with us.
Hello. So we're done with our third speaker, the Deputy Prime Minister from the opening government. So it seems like no one dare enough to POI Dina or ask any question to her because see how fluent she is. Keep us. Now we would like to invite another speaker from the opening opposition side, the Deputy Leader of the opposition. Please.
Hi everyone. Before we begin, just bear with me for the next 7 minutes. Okay. Dr. Maszlee Malik, a name that has brought sighs of relief as he was elected as the Education Minister, a name that has casted doubt when he voiced out one of his earliest reformations, Black Shoes, a voice that was behind a few controversies that have been talked about for quite some time, the Jawi issue, a name that has announced his resignation not too long ago. Basically, in today's debate, it is not our job to say either Dr. Maszlee Malik is a saint or to paint him as a villain. But we're here to answer the question whether or not we regret the resignation of Dr. Maszlee Malik. And for the government side, they said that they do. But for our side, begs to differ. But before that, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good evening to everyone in this call. Right? Okay, so for the second speaker from opening opposition, my job today is simple. I will divide my speech into two sections, which is first I will provide the substantives from side government, and then I will provide to you the argument from our side. Okay, so basically to rebut their arguments, right? First of all, they question, they brought forth this question of if our side, they justified that his ability to do good enough in his job is enough to keep him in the cabinet and to keep him as the education minister, and they also question why is Dr. Maszlee Malik the only one who should be resignated if he's doing a bad job, right? But ladies and gentlemen, just like our first speaker has already said to you, we're here not to list down all the bad things that Dr. Maszlee has done. Undoubtedly, he has done a lot of good things while he was in his post. But this question where they say that because he did good enough is worth keeping him, from our side we believe that if we agree to that notion, then everyone who they say were like the bad ministers should be kept because they did some good things in their job, right? Okay, and also they told you on how the Jawi issue isn't big enough of an issue for us to bring forth into this debate, right? But then, ladies and gentlemen, this issue actually isn't just a meager issue that has been a small number of people disagree with. This issue has, even over a few months, is still being talked about, and this issue did bring a little bit of racial tension in this country, and we believe that. Okay, so moving on to our arguments, right? Okay, so basically, from our first argument is that Dr. Maszlee Malik's resignation will stop further bad things from happening in the long run. Okay, so basically, let's compare government's world and our world, right? Under government's world, basically they regret Dr. Maszlee's resignations, and under their paradigm, Dr. Maszlee should still be the education minister, and the Ministry of Education should solely be led by him, right? But then we see this as harmful. Why? Just like we said before, just like we said before, he has caused quite a few controversies, right? Namely the Jawi issue. Basically, this is one of the few major issues that he has brought up, and it has the racial disharmony in Malaysia, right? And then and as we said, up to this time, it is still something that's been talked about, not just by few members of the minority groups, but then these specific minority groups voiced out these opinions, but a lot of people from those races do not agree with this. And the way he addressed this issue is something that rubbed them in the wrong way. And that is how it became much of a big issue than it should have been. But for that, yes, anyone else?
Recognize that even if we take your case at the best case scenario, we think that those kind of situation is not mutually exclusive on our side, because at least at our side we create discourse within the society, within the parliament. We think it's better than your side than nothing.
But like as we okay, bring us up sorry. Okay. Moving on. Okay, so under our world, right? Okay, under our world, we like we said in our argument, by having him step down is actually going to stop these things, right? It's because when this issue started and a lot of other issues have been brought up, it gives a bad image to the Ministry of Education and the government as a whole. Like our first speaker said, he also brought up a few issues where he brought up some information that kind of portrayed him as pro-Malay and not being sensitive towards other races in the country, right? And we believe that is something that is actually that gives this bad image towards the Ministry of Education, and that is also the reasons why the Parliament doesn't agree with him, because his this image that they have created of him because of his informations is something that is in contrast with what the government wants with the country, which is not what he actually voices out. No, thank you. Okay, so basically in our world, right, when we say that we do not regret his resignation, we're not saying that, oh, we're so glad that he resigned. We're saying that his resignation will actually allow better things to take place and will stop these bad prejudice people have towards the government, which is the government not being sensitive towards the minority groups, right? And then we will be able to deter at large, or if not completely stop these negative views from people, right? And then this will also lessen the doubts that people have casted towards the Ministry of Education. And for example, if we still keep him after all these controversies, right? People will still have doubt on him, even if he wants to bring forth a great information. Like, for example, I'll give you a comparison, even though it's not at the same par, but like, for example, if like a celebrity is involved in a controversy, right? Their fans or the public will cast doubt over them and would not want to support them, even if they do a lot of good things, right? Yeah, and we believe that even through his resignation, other good things can still be carried out, right? Okay, so basically to conclude, our side has shown you that this resignation of Dr. Malik actually brings the greater good for our country. And also, as cliche as it might seem, we believe that there is always something better after we have lost something that is just good. Thank you.
So, let me remind the member of the hall that it's like better for you to keep silent of your phone and your mouth as well, because you are like somehow interrupting the debate. Alright? So, yeah. Now, closing government, are you ready? We are going to call the first member from the closing government, the member for the government, to deliver his speech, please. Yes.
Under such closing government, we think that debate is disappointing because we recognize the whole debate coming from side opening are based on the question of whether or not the resignation of Maszlee is good or bad towards like the current situation. But never under their side, they told you what are the effects of the resignation. They never failed to clarify. That's why under side closing government, we will be the first side to introduce what are those kinds of what will happen in the educational system and what are the effects in the particular society of Malaysia that is currently tense between like certain races. First of all, before I move into my two argumentation, which is number one, the principle against why the resignation of Maszlee Malik in on itself is bad, and second, how the resignation affects the educational system, I would like cater towards like the whole bench of opening. The logic coming from side opening government is that the efficiency of Maszlee Malik should be the reason of why they regret the resignation. But coming from side opening opposition, they say that because of some like racial disturbances or racial issues, that Maszlee Malik should resign. We say to you that no, because we think that in this type of situation, we need to analyze what are the effects towards the education system. Because Maszlee in itself is like the Minister of Education, not the Minister of Unity between races in Malaysia. That's the first thing. Second of all, we say to you that they need to recognize or they need to understand how does the Ministry of Education works. First analyzation, how does the Ministry of Education works? We say to you that it's a top-down management. What does it mean? It means that if like the person in charge of the like organization changes, it means that the whole policy of Minister of Education will change. What are these effects that will happen to society? I will later explain in my second argumentation. Now let's move on to my like first argumentation on what principally the resignation of Maszlee Malik in itself is bad. First of all, let's recognize that we live in a world that is democratically system. It means that the government should follow what the citizens want. We think that the moment that Maszlee Malik resign is the moment that the government betrayed the principle behind the democracy system itself. We think it's bad for the Pakatan Harapan Party in the next general election. And second of all, we think it's bad for the policy of government itself. Because that first level of analysis, why does it bad, like it affects the Pakatan Harapan in the next general election? Recognize that we only have like 3 years left for the next generation. Therefore, we think that in order for you like to keep in power of the government, you need to like follow what the majority of citizens want. The moment that Maszlee Malik resign, more likely or not, people are going to protest against those kinds of decisions that are happening. And second of all, the effects of it is people are starting to like do petitions of protesting against the resignation of Maszlee Malik. Thus, therefore, when like people see that the government did not like follow their instructions or follow what they need, they will lose vote in the certain like next generation. We think it's bad for Pakatan Harapan as a political party. But let's not look into those kinds of situations. It is still bad because recognize that as I stated before, that is top-down management. The effects of this would affect the student, the teachers, like the whole system itself. Because recognize that the policy that Maszlee Malik are focusing on is like to help the people that are in bottom class or B40 people. Recognize that if like changes in policy, of people in charge of MOE is going to change, it means that those types of policy will change. We think it's bad because recognize that education is a tool for you to build a country for the future. The moment that you fail to ensure like a quality education for the next generation, we think that you as the government has already failed to do your job. We think that you yourself, Pakatan Harapan or Dr. Mahathir itself, have like violated the principle of democracy itself. Now, moving on to my, before I move into my second argument, I need to go ahead. Okay, second of all, like how does the resignation of Maszlee affects the education system? This is like a direct extension from what said opening government said, because like their whole case is based upon the premise that how Maszlee Malik is efficient as a minister and how he already did a few good jobs. We think that those kinds of situations are more likely not going to continue. Because first of all, recognize that the moment that there are going to be changes in the MOE, other than you take on more resources, you take on more time to create policies. we think that's harmful for you to create more policy, because we think that in this type of moment, we need to solve any types of conflict that exists within status quo. But rather, the moment that Maszlee Malik resign, what you will do is that create more tension between races. You create more speculation within society, because like the reason why Maszlee Malik resigned is never clear towards the society. The statement was never clear. Therefore, what does it create? It creates speculation within the society, and we think it's bad for a few reasons. First of all, what does it create is like it shows like how there's conflict within the cabinet or within like the party itself. We think it's bad because like those kind of situation makes the government look like a incapable or inefficient government itself. We think it's bad for second level of analysis why the resignation of Maszlee Malik itself is bad, because recognize that the world we live in is like the society that we live in currently like wants to hold any types of politician immediately. It means that if a politician like did a few mistakes, they want to we as a society are more likely or not wanted for the politicians to be accountable. But recognize that the accountability that exists within status quo is not proportionate towards what their work is done, towards what their policies have been made, or towards whatever the manifesto that they have created. So we think that within those kinds of reasons, we think that side government, closing government especially, have brought, number one, and direct extension towards the case of opening government, and we have already tackled the principle between like the whole opening bench for 30 minutes in just a few minutes. With that, I've been never prouder to propose.
Hello. Alright, so thank you so much for our former president of the debate club. Like, no wonder he's good, right? And now, keep us. We are going to call another speaker from the closing opposition to deliver his speech. Juju on the beat, please. The today's Muslim in this house believe that this house regret the resignation of Maszlee Malik. We on the opposition side thoroughly disagree with this motion because, as I'm going to explain next, but today I'm going to rebut all of the points and all of the issues that has been proposed by the government team, which is the first thing that has been asked by the government team is how Maszlee Malik is going to do a bad job when he is in his department. So now the first thing that we have to make sure here that the opposition team never once said that if Maszlee Malik stayed in the Ministry of Education, he is going to do a bad job in his department. However, we are proposing that we do not regret the resignation of Maszlee Malik, not due to his contributions or anything, due to certain issues that have made his career controversial as of right now. So now, even though the first we can say about the collective contribution that he have done, which is like he was blamed for the idea of reinstating Jawi, which I'm going to add. Even though it was not his idea originally, it was still his suggestion that we should reinstate Jawi, which has causes a lot of racial tension in Malaysia. And I might also add that they are talking about how Jawi, this issue can be resolved easily. However, they forget the time when the government trying to propose that when they want to abolish Jawi, the Malays and the majority of the races actually disagree with this proposition. However, when they want to apply Jawi in textbooks and so much more, they are still very tense. Sit down, please. So now, if we are looking at it in a certain way, like
As said by Maszlee Malik himself, he said that he lacks in the political department as of the reason, even though he contributed a lot, he has no particular experience in the political department, which we believe is a major disadvantage for the government itself. When we are saying how when they are proposing the idea of Jawi, free breakfast, free internet, we have to be realistic here. Even though no matter how many good suggestions that he brought up, unless the society wants to accept it, we cannot apply it in the country. So just debating about the issues is not something because the government is basically like neglecting the people itself that is choosing whether Maszlee Malik should be in the education section or not, because as a source from Bernama TV, which has already done a poll whether they would like Maszlee Malik to be Minister of Education back, 51% actually said that he's better off not being a Minister of Education. Instead, they should pick someone else like Nurul Izzah. That's from Bernama TV. Number one, and also has expressed disagreement because he brought up a lot of issues that are beneficial for the students without proper explanation or without proper persuasion for the people itself. So, for example, like black shoes. When he proposed the idea, a lot of people doesn't understand why would he propose something like that. Even though we can see some of us can see the beneficial things of wearing black shoes, but the people itself need to know these advantages and advantages of those particular issues itself, which we believe because of his lack of experience in explaining in a persuasive in politics department, he should be resigning as of now, not forever, but first, yes.
Sir, we think we think that political experience is something that can be learned. You can hire a publicist, a PR coach. It's not something that is like permanent, right?
I'm sorry, but first let's think about it. He's having a high level of job here. It's not something for you to make a trial and experiment as of now. A statement from Maszlee Malik itself, they say even though what happened in these 20 months could not be achieved in the years before, the changes are so significant that it causes a lot of rift and issues between the people itself, which cause racial tensions, as I've said before. So it is not impossible to believe that because of these issues, it is rational for us to believe that Maszlee Malik should resign as of now to not create any more tensions. As the government team pretty much said that we should follow the voice of the people. Well, now we have the voice of the people that say he should resign. So why are we still debating about this issue? But first, sit down. So, and one more thing that the government team has said that people do petitions when Maszlee Malik resigned. Let us recap a few months ago when about the issues of Maszlee Malik with the black shoes and with the racial tension, that people already create a petition that we want Maszlee Malik to resign from education minister because he said that non-Malays were well off and could afford to send their children to private schools, which is the kickstarter of all the issues that have been happening right now. So no matter how good it is in his department, if he cannot unite the people in the by any section of proposing education improvement and such, it is logical to believe that he should resign from his department. But first, yes,
explain to the House why that those harms that are happening at the constituency school outweighs the benefits that come from Maszlee policy.
Here's the thing, no matter how good even if you are talking about free breakfast and we are talking about free internet, if the society itself does not understand and cannot accept the fact that it's beneficial for them, it is unsuitable for us to imply it in this current era. It doesn't mean that the proposition that he has given is not suitable at all. It's not good as of right now, which is why he is resigning, because he already said, even though he believed that all of the proposition of the suggestions that he created are good for the people, he still have to resign because of the controversial issues such as Jawi, which has caused a lot of people to have doubts in the government and which caused a lot of petitions being done because of 3 pages in the textbook. That's why we believe that if one of these, if the small issues as the government team has said cannot be resolved as of right now, why should we let him being in the department for longer when a lot of bigger issues can be proposed in the future? Which Basically, like for us to sum up, like we do not regret that Maszlee Malik resigned as of right now because of his particular weaknesses has been jeopardized. That has jeopardized all of his advantages and his proposition. With that, I better rest my case. Thank you.
So what else can you expect from the juju, right? So far, how was the debate? Good? Right. Now, we would like to invite the second last speaker for tonight, the government whip from the closing government, please. Test.
Members of the hall, looking at this whole debate as a whole, we can see that the audience now have to choose between two sides. Whether to side with the opposition in saying that this resignation should happen in the first place, or we side with side government, where we believe that this resignation, the resignation of Maszlee Malik is a regrettable action, and that this action, this whole issue and this whole controversy shouldn't have existed in the first place. My task here today is to state in the facts and to show to you why at the end of the day, side government stands and side opposition falls to the ground. Before that, Assalamu alaikum and a very good evening I bid to all the members of the hall. Okay, standing here as the last member of side government, my task is simple. First, I will be rebutting every single misleading point that has been given by side opposition and show to you why all of their arguments are actually flawed and their whole case in and of itself is very flawed. And then the next secondly, I'll be strengthening our arguments, strengthening our case by giving you a few more elaborations and a few more examples to show you why side government should win this debate for today. But first of all, let's go towards the concept of this debate for today, right? This also gets the resignation of Maszlee Malik, basically saying that side government, we believe that this resignation shouldn't have happened because it will actually affect a lot of sides, the Minister of Education, the education in and of itself, the society in and of itself. It will actually affect these different sides, something that I'll be talking about later. But first, let's go towards our flaws, right? Towards the flaws of side opposition. Let's start with the opening opposition. Basically, first of all, the first flaw that we can see is that because they stated because of Maszlee Malik's proposition, he should resign because it is healthier for him because all of these propositions that he actually stated was actually creating racial tensions and everything, right? This thing also is said by closing opposition. Basically, they said the same issue, the same argument with closing opposition. So I'm going to be tackling both in the same argument. So let's analyze why people actually say that it promotes this racism and Malay superiority and everything. So like there are basically about 2 or 3 reasons about this. Firstly, it's about the public outcry over the teachings of fight in school, of Jawi in school, right? This is like the most controversial thing. So let's see why actually they say that this is a racial, this creates racial tension. Basically because they basically stated about why actually this happened, but we tell you that there are guidelines towards this reformation, something that they didn't say, something that they didn't note. Students, some of the guidelines are actually that students will be tested on this as part of an assessment. And most importantly, the parent-teacher associations will actually get the final say on the implementation of this reformation. Basically saying that there are plenty of reformations. There are plenty of parameters showing to you that this should actually not create any racial tension, because this actually have already been finalized to show to you why it shouldn't actually create any racial tension. If the public research the guidelines attentively, there will or should not be any conflict, and certainly not any issues about racism. I'll take you on later. Thank you. Let's move towards the next flaw of side opposition. They talk about because of grudges that the public has given towards the Maszlee Malik, he should actually quit. We tell you that these grudges are actually common things. The moment side opposition says that he should resign because of these grudges, that is the moment that we say that their case in and of itself is actually flawed. Because understand that in the parliament, grudges actually are something that is very common. And these are the things that actually will always happen. Doesn't care any type of minister. There will always be like these complications and these conflictions towards their own arguments. So that understand that if based on their logic that they should resign just because of these types of grudges, then the parliament in and of itself won't actually work. The system of the parliament in and of itself will actually work. We also tell you that these grudges can also be a very good thing because they are able to improve, the ministers are able to improve themselves. So let's go towards closing opposition. Closing opposition, members of the hall, 7 minutes of my partner's speech was wasted when closing opposition actually stood up and didn't even bring any type of rebuttals. They didn't even tackle about all of the issues that I've been talking, that Syazwan has been talking, about how the resignation actually affects the educational system. His point wasn't answered at all. We tell you that this is very important because it really does affect the educational system. Because there's a lot of change in policy and everything, right? And I think Syazwan has already elaborated enough to tell you that why the resignation will affect the educational system. But before I go towards my strengthening, any PRIs? No? Okay, sure.
Hello. All right. So despite the guidelines that have been made, and I believe that these people have already understood these guidelines, have they ever really, stopped these public outcries made in society?
Members of the hall understand that because even though we already told you, side government already told you that actually the public don't actually understand the guidelines. Because if they understood the guidelines, there should not be any type of racial tension, right? Because of the ignorance of the public towards the guidelines and everything, because they didn't understand that actually there are certain things that should not actually cause any racial tensions. That is why actually this controversy still occurs, right? Okay, so let's talk about what my closing government has stated, what my partner has already stated. Okay, so firstly, side government stated about how the resignation affect the education system and everything. So let's compare our case. Why is closing government's case different than opening government? Opening government basically stated about how the reasons why the resignation will not be effective, and closing government, we talked about the effect of the resignation, which is actually really, really bad. So yeah. So, okay, yeah. Okay, so at the end of the day, I am able to tell you that that the side government actually shows you why side opposition's case is actually pretty flawed, and that all of their arguments are basically repetitive and everything. So at the end of the day, I rest my case.
Alright, we are done with the government, our second last speaker, and now moving to the last speaker of tonight's debate. right, the opposition leader. Please welcome her to the table.
So pendek kita like exist. Hello, hi, Assalamualaikum, Tang Jehao, ya pergi mana reka? Even though that I am not sex sadika, but I am like who I am lah kan. So like, I'm just like going to like elaborate on you like what is actually happening in this debate, because it's like a total chaos. It's so unorganized. The moment that Mary Kondo is like here, she's just going to be like sent, like she's just like going to like come back home crying because like yeah, it's so unorganized. Okay, so like just like a disclaimer, I'm going to make like a lot of like references to the animal kingdom because like you know like we have like somebody adorable like Ammar here. Okay, so okay, like that's like one thing because like the moment that I make references to like human, like it's just not understandable. Yeah, that's true. Okay, so let's move on to what's the problem for today. First of all, what we all do not understand, and all of the people in this debate do not understand, is the nature of politics itself. Understand that I'm just trying to apply something that I learned from Sejarah Form 5, okay? Okay, so initially, we learn ourselves that the nature of politics itself is like really dirty. Okay, understanding and applying to Niccolo Machiavelli's real politics stances, we understand that in order for you to strive in this scene, you need to be very dirty. You cannot be of pure heart. That is the very first thing that we need to understand the moment that you want to step into the political system. Okay. So, the problem with Maszlee Malik being like a very pure-hearted person. Yeah, he comes from UiTM, right? So he's like very like God sent, right? The only thing that he hears is like God. I mean like being somebody from UiTM, like the Melayu image is like, oh, so touched, but no honey, sit down like that. Okay, so like what we need to understand is that first of all, Maszlee Malik needs to go with the flow. It needs to succumb to the Prime Minister himself, which is Dr. Mahathir. So, the moment that somebody so kind-hearted and so pure-hearted like Maszlee Malik, as mentioned by opening government, is just going to take a toll on him. And the moment that it takes a toll on him, that is also the moment that he's going to lose everything. Understand that Maszlee Malik is not twice. Okay? Maszlee Malik does not have a fandom that is just does not have a fandom. Okay? He's a politician. So the moment that you understand that he's a politician and he needs to constantly buy trust from people, yes.
So are you honestly trying to say that you would rather have a politician who's not only cruel but not having the interests of the people at his heart?
Yeah, like you need to calm down and trying to analyze it. Okay, but I'm just going to answer that later. Okay, so coming back to where we were, right? Okay, so understanding that the moment that Maszlee Malik as a politician cannot afford to lose the trust of the people. So understand the current status quo is that Maszlee Malik is like dragged by the Malaysian political system, the Malaysian political affairs, because he's in the spotlight. The moment that you're in the spotlight, you're actually like being dragged by the mud, and also which means that on a national level, he is losing the trust of the people.
Okay, what we need to understand about the democratic system is that you need sit down. Okay. The thing is that the thing that you need to understand about the Malaysian political system is that you need to win the trust of the people of your grounds. So Maszlee Malik is from Simpang Renggam. Yeah, I mean like if this takes a toll on him, who knows if he's going to like night shade the moment that he goes into like to the Kepang, right? But yeah, let's not just like not let that get to him, right? Because we don't want to afford such a pure person, such a very credible and effective person in our political system right now. So, understanding that we should not regret the fact that Maszlee Malik is resigning, because Maszlee Malik himself understands that the moment that he's going to be dragged by the Malaysian political affairs right now, the Jawi issue and the Black Shoes issue, and there's just a lot of people like coming to him. So the moment that he understands this, he just needs to like go back to his grounds and understand that the first thing that he needs to do is win back the trust of the people of Simpang Renggam themselves. Yes.
When the political system causes a good man to go down, isn't it the political system that has to be fixed?
You see, that was the thing that you were supposed to prove. You were supposed to prove that in order for Maszlee Malik to be here in the political system, that it is regretted, because the fact is that people like Maszlee Malik is the reason why we have a check and balance system. We want the integrity to actually further and progress the political system. So that was supposed to be the burden on your proof. The burden of proof on your side in order to prove that for today that it was regretted, because the fact is that Maszlee Malik was supposed to be somebody who was the major counterpart, or actually like it's like the critical counterpart in order for us to like make the Malaysian political system progressive. Understand that for today, I see that closing government was talking about how like the education system was like I'm just going to answer. Okay. So like I try to like talk about how I see that closing government sees how like education system is like the main investment in order for it's like the main investment in a cabinet, you know. So like the thing about here's the thing, I understand the fact that the moment it is regrettable that Maszlee Malik resigning is actually going to be like a big loss for the country. Yes, it is understandable, because you see, somebody like Maszlee Malik is very progressive, but the moment it takes a toll on him, he should rest. So his resignation is not regrettable, because the moment you understand that it takes a toll on him, he is not in the like best position in order for him to make he is not in the best position in the best position in order for him to cater to the demands of the education system right now. So I believe that for today, I made it very clear. We understand that it is not regrettable for Maszlee Malik to resign, because of the fact that we understand the moment it takes a toll on him, that we are actually losing a gem in the political system. So go inside opposition. Thank you.
It's done right. Let's stop.